Well, while everybody is unmuting themselves and getting set up, this is the Zoom after show and today is Wednesday, June 17th, and I had the distinct privilege and pleasure of having Henk Campher in the global headquarters of Corona TV with me. He was honest, he was open, he was transparent, and it ended up being a show less about marketing, which was the intent of Corona TV. As I said, it's about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, we'll discuss the marketing. We did a bit of that, but we really discussed forgiveness and we discussed truth, and you should definitely go and watch that show. But right now, we are in the Zoom after show, and I hand it over to my regular Corona TV buddies, and of course my guest Henk Campher to take it away.
Joey.
What's up, Hank? It's great to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you too. It's been too long. We need to go have some cheap beers.
Yeah, well, exactly. I know that you banned Corona or Coors Light from your house for real reasons. I have not done that, so I still have shitty beer in my refrigerator.
For everyone else, Joey and I actually bonded over our mutual love for Coors Light. But then I realized their stance against the unions. I was like, as an ex-unionist, I can't drink it anymore. So.
Oh, damn, all I have is Coors Light in my fridge. I'm going to have to throw it out.
It's too good. I used to send Hank, every time I go out, I get a Coors Light, I take a picture of it, and I send it to Hank. I'm like, thinking of you, buddy.
Well, Steve, you might be able to recommend a certain beer.
Lord Hobo.
Tell Henk about it.
Henk, where are you?
I'm in Seattle, Issaquah.
Oh, you might have Lord Hobo. So Lord Hobo is a beer. It's a brewery that I invested in 5 years ago. I was the second guy to meet the guy who runs it now. It was in a bar on a napkin. He's telling me all about it. And,
nice.
And I was like, well, I read about him in the newspaper. He was opening up a brewery, and I was an angel investor, but not in beer, but I like beer. And I asked him, do you have any other investors? And he says, well, we have one other investor who's a friend of the family. I said, oh, what's that person's name? And he says to me, Armand. And I said, Armand Basai? And he said, yes. And I'm like, that was my financial planner. So we're like high fives. And so I was the second investor. And this week is our 5th year anniversary. And last year we were the fastest growing brewery in the United States. So it's a really fun story.
Nice. Oh, absolutely. I'll go look for it. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll go hunt it on.
That interview, you guys, Joseph, I thought you were long lost friends.
It's unbelievable. In fact, I didn't even know he was South African until last night.
Yeah,
that's how crazy it is.
You thought he was Dutch, right?
I thought he was maybe like, Dutch or Belgian. It's I don't know why I'm just thinking of Austin Powers right now, because a fat bastard probably, which is not you. I'm not insulting you. I've been running, by the way. So Henk, I've been doing something called fat blogging, which is something I started when I started blogging in 2005, like one of the early bloggers, and which is basically once a week I publish my weight. And I call it weight loss by community, because you put it out there. Now you're in front of the world. You can't not succeed because you look like an idiot. So I've been running 2-3 times a week, just up to 4 or 5 miles, and it's just been amazing. So that's another thing we have in common, which is running. Yeah,
I love running. Right now I call it rolling, not running, because I'm so out of shape. But it's still, I also tell people that run is a shape, so I might be out of shape, but it is a shape, so.
You're on brand, you're on roll.
Exactly. But yeah, Joey knew me in what my wife boxed my clothes called the Henk the thin years. Joey knew me in my original thin years as well. And I ran marathons, and I got an injury 5 years ago that really nailed me, and I just blew up because I still ate like I was running 50, 70 miles a week. But I didn't.
I've run 2 New York marathons, which I never thought I would do. What was your injury?
I fractured my heel. So I always had plantar problems, and I thought it was a plantar problem, but I actually fractured it was a hairline fracture, and it turned into a proper fracture because I kept on running, thinking it was plantars, thinking it was just another foot injury. And it was a stupid mistake. I was running in old shoes, running down the hills when we lived in California, and I was just downing on the rocks, chasing after my dog. And the small little fracture turned into, so I had to run. I usually run with Brooks, but for a while I had to run with these Hoka 1-1s. And if you've seen them, it's just like these huge fat heels to help with that. So now I'm slowly getting back doing 4 to 6 mile runs 3-4 times a week. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle running at the moment because it's just so much weight. I was trying to qualify for Boston, but to qualify for Boston on time, I would have to run a 7:43 miles per minute marathon, which is just nuts. That's like a 2:25 at my age group marathon. That's like, 3:25. That was like nuts. But I could do a half marathon at that speed. So I thought I can just continue to push it. But yeah, now I run like 10 and a half, 11 minutes a mile. It's like, really, what the hell? So, but
I've also had to come to terms with the fact that my pace is always going to be around 10, 10:15, 9:45. What I've realized is the extra 15 seconds per mile, it's not worth it if it ends up meaning injury. Yeah. So you just so mentally, and the funny thing is, I would say during this time of quarantine, maybe 3 things have saved me. 1 is Corona TV, 2 is being able to run, and 3 is while I've been running, listening to predominantly Howard Stern, but sometimes Tim Ferriss, and just hearing these interviews. It's helped me become a better interviewer, but also just listening to these stories. But I think none could be as interesting as yours.
No, thanks for that. But I view it as it's everything is by accident. My wife and I were talking last night. It's like, it's funny enough, none of this matters. And none of any of that matters. And at the end of the day, all I want to do is, Joey knows, is I really just want to lie in a hammock, drink cheap beer. In Kauai. Kauai is the closest place that made me feel like South Africa in the US. The people actually talk about auntie and uncles and use the same kind of words that we would use. At the end of that, none of it really matters.
Hopefully not Aunt Jemima.
No, definitely not.
But no, I just, for me, coming to the US, and also trying to find my place, and I know who I am and the person I am. It's never changed in terms of the positions I took and what I felt, which is not dissimilar to yours. But your story is filled with action, real action, and that's the one thing now that we've all had to come to terms with in this country, right? Which is there's a huge difference between being a non-racist and an anti-racist, and I think actually in my own way, like being able to, for example, do that soliloquy on this decision, to kind of do away with Aunt Jemima is a way of me taking action, because I'm actually not just posting something on an Instagram story, which is fine. I don't judge anyone anymore, but it's the ability to use a platform with some influence to have a point of view that is resolute, I think, and clear and articulate, and not be afraid to do that. And I think, by the way, I didn't get into it. There was no time, but it's not that common that you see a leader in a company today being able to be as just independent and human as you are. It really is not that common. In fact, I mean, Joey, like Steve, Bob, Jan, when have you ever seen someone like this?
It's really rare. I mean, that's actually what I enjoyed about getting to know Henk. He actually was friend of my friend Dad, was also from South Africa, and that's how we were introduced. I was working at Ecosphere, which was a sustainable company started by 3 scientists. And I think after we met, you watched my film, and then we became friends based on like, how do you actually operate? What is your goal, Joey? What are you doing, Henk? And we had this commonality in working with responsible brands, and the stories in which we wanted to tell for those brands was exactly that: authentic, honest, personal, transparent, and full of empathy. And the irony, Henk, as we're now seeing, is that it's now the new buzzword post-COVID. Is like, well, now you guys have to be real. You're like, okay, right? I mean, that's Henk has been real for in the entirety of his career, which I think has been really unique. And I've watched him go to different agencies, and he was at Salesforce for a long time and did some great stuff there. And when you went over to Hootsuite, I was like, what a perfect fit. And we haven't even talked since you went over there. I think I sent you my first 2 chapters of my book, and we haven't even chatted about Hootsuite at all. I was all about me. So I was like, hey, I want to talk about me, Henk. But yeah, I haven't even talked to you about what's going on over there.
Wait, Joey, you wrote a book? Little inside joke.
I mentioned it to a couple people. Yeah, I know.
Henk, actually, Joey was my guest on the show. Man, how long ago was it now, Joey?
3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's amazing how time is flying in this quarantine or whatever. I don't even know what it is anymore. It feels like it's now a let's go out. I think they call this the let's go out and infect everyone period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's true what you say, Joey. I think Hootsuite was like, oh yeah, that's where you should have been. And I think it starts off with like, we have a CEO it's a founder, so he's just like, and founders, I love founders because they have that mentality of like, just do it. Just be you. And the thing that he asked me, the reason why they hired me was like, did you hire this great marketing guy? No, because I studied philosophy. So you're not going to hire me because you want great marketing processes and systems. Yeah, I can do that. I've done that. But you hire me because you want that. You want somebody to just say like, if I'm not going to say it, who do you think is going to say it? Like and it's again back to that making your privilege work. It's Steve, when you were saying like you invested in that beer company, it's like, how do we all just use the power of our own personal privilege to create something? And it's different. I'm just lucky. The thing is, like, the reason why my story resonates is because I'm lucky. I was born in South Africa first. That's going to make people go like, oh shit, there's a white guy from South Africa. So that immediately is just, I was lucky to be born into that. And then I was lucky to have this father that was this complete arsehole. And I was lucky to find a job with the trade union movement. So all of those things are just luck. And like you say, it's just, you just there at the right moment. But we all have our own stories. I'm busy writing a book and it's called The Adventures of an Accidental Activist. Because it was just like, I look at things like when I joined Oxfam, I'll shut up just now. When I joined Oxfam, I was again dropped down a few levels because I wanted to go run campaigns at Oxfam. But I got there and I was the 3rd one from the top of campaigns. It's like, okay, I'm not running the show here. Within 2 weeks, the person who hired me resigned. And the next person above me was pregnant and had to go on maternity leave. So within 2 weeks, I was literally the only one standing. And I was like, oh shit, Henk will head up campaigns. What the hell do I know of coffee? So I headed up the Access to Medicine Coffee and Make Trade Fair campaign purely because I was the only one left. It's like, Yeah, I can tell a great story about my Oxfam days, but the truth is the reason why I landed up in there because it was a numbers game, 1,000 applications. I got one job and then 2 people disappeared, so it's like accidents. And we all have those kind of stories. It's just being South African has just provided me with that Nelson Mandela approach of like, just be who you are. And eventually it'll work out. How bad can my privilege be? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen to me in my life? When I was born into privilege, so I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to be an arsehole about it, but I love brands. I love what we can do to the world. And that's why if I'm not honest about it, then I'm not helping that brand. I'm not helping it become better. So it helps to, Joseph, you and I spoke about it. Actually, it helps having a South African accent in America as well. Because people listen to me and go like, yeah, shit, that's smart. Meanwhile, in South Africa, everybody will go, what a dumbass. It's like everybody looks at my names and because my real name is Hendrik, and in South Africa, everyone will go, oh, I can hear the banjo music. In America, everybody goes, that's so smart. So
in fact, I think Joey calls you Hank. Which is even more American. But so for those of you, Hank's accent is a little bit more, shall we say, Dutchman, and mine is more, I don't know, Englishman. Even though, by the way, I have no English blood in me at all. It's the weirdest thing. Like my ancestors are from Russia, from Lithuania specifically, but it's so good just to hear that accent. And I'm lucky, I married a South African too. So that made culturally, there's that strong kind of like anchor, Yeah,
I married way above my station. I married the English South African. So it's like now I'm 97% human.
From Lithuania as well.
No. Mine is South African, but also Russian. Her name is Maya. So it's Russians went to Germany and then to South Africa. So she's an English South African.
So meanwhile, where the hell was Adam Zand? The guy that brought us together.
Yeah, and I met Adam in Boston. I lived in Boston for 4 years.
Funny how like it just, but I mean, it's, going back to what kicked us off, Steve, was like, as I said, if you try and understand now my process, you can actually see there is no process, because whatever I was going to ask him, I mean, we ended up completely in a different, in an amazing place. I'm still thinking. And by the way, what I was doing is a little funny story. I'm busy time stamping I'm trying to like get better at time stamping, like moments in the conversation. So I was doing it into like the comments bar, which hasn't worked on StreamYard, which is the software I use. So I did like 224, 234, 241. And then by mistake, I hit enter. So it posted these sets of numbers on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, like cryptic. And I was like, oh shit, so like, it was fun. It was good because now I know that I wasn't able to comment to people watching. So like what would happen is like sometimes, you'd say something or there'd be like a URL and I couldn't share that. I needed like someone like Steve or Bob to then paste it, but apparently now I can, and it posted it to all 3 of the platforms. So if anyone's trying to work out what 2.34 and 2.4 means,
probably Homeland Security.
Yeah, it's moments that I was that I wanted to try and figure out to go back to afterwards.
I think your background is we've seen so many backgrounds. It occurs to me that your choice of background these days can influence the reception that you have, the mood that you have, the reception to the ideas that are being put forth. I've been on a lot of boring Zoom calls, none of them are yours, Joseph's. And the background does matter. I think it's just funny how that hits me all of a sudden when you see the palm trees in the back.
Yeah, I've been having fun with it, and my insight behind it is that there are a lot of guests that come on the show, and again, I don't judge anymore. At least I try not to. At least not when I'm recording. When we stop recording, I'll judge. I'll become the angry African sidekick. But what a lot of people do, and why shouldn't they? I mean, you see it on CNN as well. They create the perfect desk environment, and they've got all the portraits, and then they make sure if they've written books that the books are showing up, and all their certificates are there. And then you've got Henk over there who demonstrates to us his poor taste in football clubs he supports, musical instruments, comic books. I mean, you can also tell the person that he is based on his background. And then, as some of you know, I decided to flip the whole background thing and make always my background about my guest. So I could have my 5 books in the background. And then I've been playing around with this idea, because this idea is all the people that have been on the show, and they're all smiling and they're all having a good time. And that to me is the show. The show is not me anymore. It's everyone. It's all the people that I've had the chance to hang out with, and you guys. So, it's funny, but the beauty of it, though, you talk about the being accidental. I didn't sit down and write the brief. I didn't sit down and plan this. It just happens. And it's a beautiful thing when you look back and realize what's happening at the time. I mean, to me, that's been the real skill here. The skill is, when something's happening, can you actually recognize it's happening in the moment? Because it's like, Henk, you'll like this one. It's the idea of Flash, right? Flash moves so quickly that everyone is moving in slow motion. So he can be like moving around, and he can just like watch everything unfolding, like the bullet moving. So he can just look and quickly go and just take the bullet down. And I feel like that's what Corona has done to the world. 2020, you don't need 2020 vision. You don't need hindsight to realize this year sucks.
This year doesn't suck. We've established that it's the best year ever.
It sucks. It sucks.
I don't agree. I am convinced that it's delusional to think that this year sucks. If this year didn't happen, it would have sucked. I feel that way. Is it hard? Is it difficult? Does it have sucky moments? Yes. But if this year didn't happen, especially with what's gone on with anti-racism, I would have really felt like we were still being deluded. We're in some matrix and pretending. So I don't agree with that.
Clearly that is, clearly the activism and the change, and the end of Aunt Jemima is all of these are good things. But what I realized when I actually went through this on a previous episode, and someone said this, is, it depends who you say it to. At the end of the day, when someone has lost a loved one, it sucked. The year sucked.
Yep.
Period. I think in this case we're both right. We're both right, because to just go through this year and not try and find the silver lining. Like today, this opportunity to meet Henk, to have this conversation, how could that suck? It can't. How many Americans are there that needs to hear what he said, what you said, Henk? Hopefully, even if one person went and Googled Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that's a victory.
I think I agree with you. I think you're both right, because I think the hurt is at a personal level. So people feel the pain at a personal level. But this is good for humanity. Humanity had to go through this. Because if we just had another 2019, which by the way sucked. 2019 was bad, and then somebody said, hold my beer. And they gave us, and we thought like, the Aussie fires, that's the worst thing that's going to happen this year. Yeah, no, that was like a fun memory.
It was a Coors Light, by the way. It was a Coors Light, the beer.
It was. But I think it's like humanity needed this moment. Exactly what you're saying, Jan. It's like we needed this moment where we could look in the mirror. It's like, really, we were chasing all of this. We were sitting 2 hours in traffic, thinking that we need to be in the office. Meanwhile, the work can be done in other ways. We thought we've dealt with racism, and we really haven't. We haven't held that mirror up, and we thought it was just like, let's be better, and we didn't embrace and understood the depth of the injustices and how people feel. And it's the systemic part for me is like almost less about the systemic. It's like how this is making people feel. Like they can't walk down the street. You know, I can't remember who the person was I read this morning. It was a NBA player. I think it was an NBA player who said he was pulled down jogging, and he fears for his life going to jog. And if we didn't have that, at the hurt is at a personal level, but I agree with you. Like at that humanity level, we will be better because of this, because of COVID, because of the other fights, and because of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful bridge between the two, right? The hurt is at a very individual, personal level, but the good has been at a humane, you know, I mean, from everything from the planet healing, you know, to, you know, recognizing and coming to terms with systemic racism. You couldn't be more right, and I think you just encapsulated it beautifully. Is that a good compromise, Jan? Can we shake and be friends again? Oh, can we hug? Can we hug? Socially distant?
Yeah, I just want to say 6 feet apart, right?
Did you see them lining up, by the way, in the Premier League today? They kind of stood 6 feet. It was so stupid. Like they stood 6 feet apart for the lineups, and then they're like playing a game where they're tackling each other. And I'm glad it's back. You want a score update?
All I know is that
love their sport.
Liverpool is basically 6 feet away from its the trophy.
Yeah, you can have your empty victory if you like. Sheffield United Villa was 0-0, which is a good result for Spurs, I guess, if we're going to try and catch them. And Arsenal has just started against Man City, so that's a big one. Henk, a couple things. One is, first of all, everyone I think got a chance to say something except Farnham, which always makes me nervous because then he tends to explode, and then I have to extend this for 45 minutes. We do this little after show every single day, after, you know, and the show is live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. And sometimes I do cocktails. I call it Corona cocktails, which had I known, we would have done Corona cocktails with tequila. But you might have to just come back. And but I always say, you're very, very welcome to join. Joey and pretty much Steve and Jan and Bob are on almost every single day. And Joey, when he can't make it, he apologizes. He sends a note to say, sorry, I can't make it. I'm like, it's okay. Just don't do it again. But you're very welcome to come join us any day and hang out with us.
Oh, well, absolutely. This was fun. This has been really great fun.
It's nice to have another South African in there, even if he's an angry one. So it's all good.
He's not so angry.
No, I know. I was just making the joke. When we introduced him as the angry African on stage, it was what people were like, oh, you're going to hell. And then another white guy gets up there.
That is... So, I mean, what a coincidence that you guys knew. You didn't even tell me that you knew each other as well.
I saw it on Monday when you did the show. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. You get Hank on there and ask him anything. And then when you said, oh, he may have no comment, I'm like, no, it's never happened. No comment.
Yeah, there's not, you're right. Not a lot of, I don't think I've ever said I don't have an opinion on something. My opinion isn't necessarily right. It's just an opinion. You know, I don't claim to be right.
Who is your favorite, or who were your favorite superheroes, like based on the comics you bought when you were a kid?
Green Lantern.
Me?
Green Lantern. I had three. I had Green Lantern, Flash, and Aquaman. I don't know why.
Batman was my dude. He had all the cool shit, cool car, cool motorcycle, hot girls. I mean, come on.
Catwoman. Sorry.
Catwoman. And Catwoman alone takes that one right.
I used to like the Legion of Superheroes. It was called.
That was a cartoon.
It was called Adventure Comics.
Yeah.
Adventure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I
And
don't have that. I just.
they must have had 20s or more superheroes of the wildest, range, from invisibility to elongating your arms to whatever.
I remember whether it was called Elongated Man or Plastic Man, but I was a DC guy, so there was Firestorm and Atom and Hawkeye or Hawkman.
Yeah.
And then you look at Marvel and what a success story that's been. I mean, I didn't remember any Marvel superheroes not like this. I mean, like Thor and Captain America. I guess maybe that's an American thing.
Well, Iron Man. Yeah, I mean, all those Stan Lee stuff got huge.
Yeah, all of these are DC, so it's Superman and Robin, etc. And I was a big Green Lantern fan, but my actual one that I always wanted to read was Daredevil, Marvel. I just love Daredevil.
Did you see the Netflix series on that?
It was so brilliant. That was
Great.
really so
It was good.
Yeah.
The
That guy
fights,
was a good actor.
the fight scenes in that series are regarded as among the best of production guys I talked to.
Oh yeah, I love that. That whole series to me was just so true to the comics.
It was, and their partnership was hilarious.
Yeah,
Those guys were great together.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you
guys.
I gotta tell you one thing, that where the angry African came from. I lived in Boston, and I walked to the, what do they call, the tube or the underground or whatever they call it here, to the train, the T. Yes, I was walking to the T, and there was this ad, and it was a tiger being chased by a Maasai warrior. And then I walked into Tivana, and there was this rooibos tea with an elephant on the design. Now, two things hit me there. The elephant was an Indian elephant, and rooibos is African, and there are no tigers in Africa. So I wrote my first proper blog was Marketing 101. There are no tigers in Africa. And it was a tongue-in-cheek dig at the stupidity of brands writing this shit, like no research. And a friend looked at it and said, "You're a real angry African on the loose." And I go, "There's my Twitter handle right there." So that's purely by accident.
I love it, and that came right at timestamp 32 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm gonna just hang on 1 second.